I'm Chiaki Nanami, the ultimate gamer. Video games are my hobby, and I'm a fan of all genres. Nice to meet you. And let's start with that mystery. Then, instead of knowing about it beforehand, maybe he saw it right at that moment. Like, for example, he might have seen someone trying to take the knife out from under the table. It would be weird. They had to have already known. That's why they used the glowing paint as a mark. Regarding the energy usage, they probably asked Monokuma about it. That's wrong. I think. 'Cause we've already found a clue that might point to who the killer is. The killer? I don't know. But we do have a clue about a suspicious person. I think, first of all, let's try thinking about how the killer was able to obtain the knife during the blackout. No, not that. I mean before that. And there's only one person here who could have done that. But still, you had a chance, right? A chance to hide the knife under the table? If it was just one coincidence, it'd be fine. But when it's one right after another, I wonder, is something like that even possible? I don't know if you're the killer or not, but regardless, it proves that you're suspicious, right? By threatening Byakuya, Nagito was likely able to manipulate his actions. In doing so, Nagito was able to manipulate everyone to the scene where the murder would occur. Am I wrong? Hey Nagito, are you still hiding something? Like, during the blackout, did something happen between you and Byakuya that we don't know about? Maybe the killer didn't necessarily stab Byakuya under the table. But that doesn't mean where Byakuya got stabbed and where the killer did the stabbing are the same, right? Under the table, but not under the table. If it's somehow possible, it's the only way that makes sense. Moving forward, we should put aside all unnecessary preconceptions and just choose the answer. I think. Then that has to be how the killer did it. If the space beneath the floor is empty, it's not that far to move from the storage room to the dining hall. I didn't participate, but I was guarding the entrance, remember? Monami over there can be my witness, right? Oh, you're right. I saw Fuyuhiko after the party started. There's no way he could have been waiting under the floor before then. Well, if someone disappeared during the blackout, no one would have noticed. Is it really not possible? And in doing so, it might have been possible for them to use that mark to target the victim. But if they were able to do that, wouldn't that mean the killer knew about Nagito's plan all along? If Teru was in the dining hall during the blackout, he should have been there after the power returned, right? Why don't we consult his memories? Oh, fine, I got it. Let's try thinking about what the weapon was. Also, I was on guard duty, and I never once saw Teru leave the old building. I guess we have no choice but to somehow find out for ourselves. Check it out. The handle looks like it's made of bone. Pretty clever. Hey Nagito, I'm sorry, but can you just be quiet? I guess we need to settle this, once and for all. To do that, we need to go over the entire incident from beginning to end and make everything clear. Yeah, you're right. Then let's try discussing that first. So, I think it's better if we clarify who the characters in the game are first. Ah, a nasty, trashy pig shit. I feel like I heard that in the game too. Let's move on to Girl D. Anyway, now we've established who all the characters in the game are. If so, Then girl E is Miss Sato. I don't know what Sato you're talking about, but I don't think she's relevant to this case. It's the murder that occurred in the music room. I knew it would come up, so I prepared in advance. Look, I made a map of the music room's surroundings, which was the stage of the first case. Mapping is second nature to retro game fans. Classic dungeon crawler RPGs have a first-person point of view, so mapping as you play is a basic. Then, I'll start explaining. Girl A, Girl B, Girl C, and Girl D were at the entrance hall when they heard the sound of glass breaking. Immediately, they climbed the stairs to the second floor and headed to where they heard that sound. Girl E was in front of the music room on the second floor, and she confirmed that the sound came from in there. But the door to the music room was locked. So Girl D went to get the key from the office, and when the 5 of them were finally able to go inside, they found the victim's body, dead from a blow to the head. Because the music room's window was broken, the girls thought the killer escaped through there. The sound of breaking glass that they heard at the entrance hall seemed to confirm that. Plus, Girl E's school swimsuit was stolen, so they concluded that the escaped killer was some pervert. How does that sound? She would have passed by the entrance hall where the other girls were waiting if she tried to do that. To go back to the music room from outside, you need to go through the entrance hall. So the sound of breaking glass that the 4 girls heard wasn't the music room's window. It was the sound of the vase breaking. Probably. But for the killer, it's an idea that kills 2 birds with 1 stone. To make people think the killer is some pervert, it makes sense for a school swimsuit to be stolen. And if that swimsuit was used to make an improvised weapon, it'd have to be disposed of later. And apparently the reason Girl E committed murder in the first place was to protect Girl D. Girl D was being harassed by the victim. Girl E found out and tried to stop it, and they ended up getting into an argument. Then we can't assume Hiyoko is the one who dropped that yellow gummy. Let's assume Hiyoko is the killer. Wouldn't that mean she's also the one who dragged the body? If she handled the body that bloody, I think her clothes or skin would have been stained with blood. Oh, wasn't changing inside the beach house prohibited in the first place? Yeah, seems like it. A letter? Like this part. I was going to tell you in person, but I couldn't find you, so I put this in your mailbox. This part. It seems there's someone who wants to interfere with our meeting. And this part. Let's keep it a secret. Until then, let's try not to see each other for a while. The killer probably planned to frame Hiyoko from the start. And for that reason, they summoned Hiyoko before Mahiru, put her to sleep, and shoved her inside the closet. If the killer was luring Hiyoko into a trap, then something that was used there might be a clue. No, it was probably the gummy. Hey, when you woke up, was the gummy already there? Just as I thought. If the killer planted evidence while Hiyoko was there, she would have thrown it away if she found it. I wonder. At any rate, the solution to that problem is connected to what really happened. That's what I think. That's why the killer made sure to arrange a hiding place. But the shelf it was on, it was pretty messy, don't you think? 2 surfboards were stacked on the top shelf, and there were surfboards that weren't even in a case. The killer probably did that on purpose to secure a hiding place. 'Cause we haven't been on this island that long, so the closet shouldn't have been that messy, I think. Maybe they simply washed it off. They didn't have to use the shower. If they used something other than the shower, maybe they were able to wash it off. Ah, you're right. These bottles look like they may have been filled with water. We might have an answer. Well, if Peko is the killer, then I might just have an answer to that mystery. First, let's establish how the killer escaped. No, they just have to use an object. You did? I thought you were saying they couldn't dispose of an object. Well, it is a bamboo sword, but I'm sure a slender girl like Peko could easily use it to climb. Hold on. Let me confirm one thing first. This is important, and it relates to the voting. It's about Peko's motive. In the end, you had no connection to the events depicted in Twilight Syndrome murder case, right? Then, why did you kill Mahiru? So what's your answer to my previous question? Why did you kill Mahiru? Or, if you insist that you're sparkling justice, can you try saying that catchphrase in Spanish? I see. That leaves us one person short. I see. Now I finally see the connection. The connection between the motive and the incident. That's a problem. If Peko's allegation holds up, that means our vote was incorrect. Anyway, we shouldn't proceed with the trial if those two can't participate in the arguments. Since he's the first witness, why don't we ask Hajime to explain the incident and the sequence of events? But I remember feeling a little relieved because not long after, we met up with Mikan and Fuyuhiko. Did Hajime kill both of them? What a waste of time. Well, I knew it would turn out like this anyway. Yeah, I think so too. It had a firm, gel-like chewiness, and I could smell workshop chemicals the moment I put it in my mouth. Based on all that, I'm certain it was glue. And thanks to that, a glob of glue was left where the door was stuck. Yup, it fits perfectly. That doesn't really matter. The killer only did that to make us think the door was locked from the inside. First of all, didn't that drumstick we found seem really obvious? Almost unnaturally so? It was so obvious that it makes more sense to think the killer placed it as a diversion. But the killer made a mistake. They accidentally ripped off a piece of the wallpaper. And because of that, a scrap was left on the baton lighting. Yeah, it's valid. The condition of Ibuki's body suggests that as well. I'm not even crying. Oh, I see. You want me to explain it to you, right? Because you don't understand what I'm saying, right? Look, Ibuki died because she hanged herself, right? That means when she was still alive, her feet were touching the floor. But it seems Ibuki was still standing when Hiyoko was killed. That would mean Hiyoko was killed before Ibuki. Because she was doing something that's only possible if her feet were on the floor. When Hiyoko died, Ibuki's feet were on the floor. When the killer tried to hide Hyoko's body, they probably cleaned the blood at the same time, but Ibuki must have already stepped in it, and the killer probably didn't even realize it. Hyoko's body was probably wrapped in duct tape to stop her bleeding. Yup, since we have all this evidence, there's no one else who wants to object, right? Then it's decided. Hiyoko was killed before Ibuki, but if Ibuki's the killer, she wouldn't have been able to falsify the sequence of the murders, right? After Hajime saw the hanged body, the sudden appearance of Hyoko's body soon after means the killer had to be alive at that time. And if she was going to fake her death, I think she wouldn't have chosen hanging. Her body would have been defenseless in that state. If anyone touched her, That alone would have ruined her plan. But just to be sure, that surveillance camera doesn't have a record function, right? I think everyone at the motel was doing that. Too much info. It's better if we think about it like that. The killer decided to falsify the murder sequence to hide the actual time of the crime anyway. But I'm thinking about it again and he's totally right. It feels incomplete. It's not just that. Come on, try to remember the content of the movie. About the lion that got killed second. Even though we're calling it an imitation, the lion was actually pinned by arrows, right? But Hiyoko's body was suspended by common household duct tape. Well, that's probably it, but that attitude is what makes this feel incomplete. If falsifying the murder sequence was the killer's plan from the very beginning, they should have taken steps to properly imitate it. I'm saying, Hiyoko's murder wasn't. It's not just the poor imitation. There are also other strange details. Like, for example, why did Hiyoko go to the music venue? Hiyoko locked herself in her room because she was being overly cautious of the despair disease, you know? I don't think a person like that would leave their room just because someone called for them. Then, the killer probably couldn't have assumed that Hiyoko would go to the music venue. The only thing I can think of is, it was an unfortunate coincidence. When she went to the venue by herself, she was probably just unlucky and walked in on the crime scene. It probably happened when the killer was preparing to kill Ibuki. The killer most likely had already placed the hemp bag over her head, and without hesitation. Because the killer used that coincidence for their crime, it made this case even trickier. Then what was the killer actually planning to do? They've been cunning this far. There's no way they'd kill Ibuki without a plan. Unless there was something funny about that video. As long as I leave this to you, I won't tell you to do your best, but oh well, you should get started already. Can you explain it to us? It's possible those two stepladders were completely different. Then one of the stepladders was somewhere other than the music venue. From what I remember, there used to be a really flashy curtain, but after the incident, it somehow became a plain black curtain that didn't seem to be the right size. In actuality, even though the curtain in the conference room doesn't stand out, it is a black light-blocking curtain that's long enough to reach the floor. But that's not all. There should be something else the killer did to tamper with the evidence. Probably. If I'd found proof that evidence in the conference room was altered, we would have reached an answer sooner. But it appears the killer already covered that up, so I didn't find anything when I went there. The actual time of death must have been earlier, probably around midnight or dawn to avoid witnesses. Well, what do you know, Nagito? Though hanging and strangling seem similar, they're very different. The scars they leave would look different too. I don't think belief and doubt are necessarily opposite. I do doubt her, but I still want to believe her. Belief lies at the heart of that conflict. 'Cause if there's no room for doubt, then there's no reason to believe, is there? If you want to believe in someone, you need to overcome doubt first. Belief without doubt is simply a lie. If we don't have any clues, why don't we have her give us some? I'm the same as Hajime. I don't want to doubt any of my friends, but still, the truth is one of us murdered two of our friends. That's why we gotta stick with this until the very end. so we can finally break these chains of despair. Hey Mikan, can I ask you one last thing? If you're not the killer, then who fabricated that video Hajime watched? Can you prove it? It seems she finally started arguing for us. But the only one who can find the hole in her argument is you, Hajime. So, I'm going to leave this to you once again. Hajime, pay close attention and listen well. You're the only one who can point out the killer's mistake.
Yeah. Is that right?
This is your just reward. The more desperately you argue, the deeper you dig yourself into a hole. You lied, didn't you? The body discovery announcement was made soon after. Akane heard that and rushed over. Now, enough with the lovers' quarrel. We need to think about this seriously. We don't have the luxury of discussing irrelevant things. The incident this time has many questions. Why? Then, how about we look at it from a different angle? If it doesn't have oil on it, it's not the weapon. So whatever has oil on it must be the weapon, right? I briefly considered that too, but it's probably not what happened. Is that really it? We can't be certain of that either. Not when the experiment involving the handbook I left on the tower floor was a complete success. Strange scenery? The top floor, right? It never occurred to us that they were the same building because it was structured with two different shapes. A quadrilateral and a hexagon, overlaid atop each other to misdirect how we would perceive them. And it worked, didn't it? Disregarding the tower, we fully believed the two houses were two separate, distinct buildings. It's alright. Kazuichi is not the killer. If he was, he wouldn't have fixed the elevator or the button in Strawberry Hall. It'd be much more convenient for the killer if it stayed broken. Maybe it was simply moved? You can't think of a device like that? A device that moves things to different floors in the same building? When you see people and things, make sure you focus on the good parts instead of the bad. So, let's put aside what's changed and focus our attention on what hasn't. It's fine. Come on, what does everything that hasn't changed have in common? And why did the picture on the far back door change? If you can figure that out, you'll have the answer. The reason is because that elevator has something unique about it. I want to say they lead outside, but they're probably just for show. So we'd falsely believe that the doors were connected to where their picture signified. It was actually very effective. Because of that, we totally misunderstood the building's structure. Meaning, as the elevator moved between the two houses, it also rotated 180 degrees. It was probably following the building's perimeter as it rotated to the other side, which means the exit would be on the opposite side once you arrived at the other house, right? You know how the four-sided strawberry house is on top of the six-sided grape house? If you cut a four-sided shape out of a six-sided one, you get 8 edges. It becomes an 8-sided shape. I never expected the funhouse itself to be the ultimate weapon. Oh well, let's just press on ahead. I mean, that's not what's important. The thing that's really important is the killer who used the building structure. Like, who's Mechamaru's murderer? Anyway, if the killer used the building structure, why don't we think about how they used it? It might be better if we clarify the cause of death first, don't you think? Then, how about this? After locking Mechamaru inside the elevator, they moved the elevator from the 4th floor to the 1st floor and made use of the drop. That's what I was about to explain before Kazuichi interrupted me. If you arrange it a certain way, you can cause the drop within the elevator. That arrangement is... That's right, he was suspended in mid-air. The killer tied up Mechamaru with the wire while he was in sleep mode. Tied the tip of the wire into a knot and hung it on the doorknob to the 4th floor. With that, they moved the elevator from the 4th floor to the 1st floor of Grape Tower. And suspended Mechamaru in midair. If you woke up from an alarm and realized you were hanging upside down and had no clue why, if something like that happened to you, you would start panicking a lot, right? Instinctively, your body would start moving. Mechamaru probably did exactly that. Are there any clues that can be used to narrow that down? Huh? You can tell? Alarm? To be honest, it's not just them. The same goes for me too. I was in a pretty deep sleep, so I thought that's why I couldn't hear it, but... It wasn't that. I probably couldn't hear it at all. Even though Mechamaru's murder was a death trap that utilized the alarm in his chest, the killer still needed to prepare the murder in advance. Which means they wouldn't have heard the alarm or the rumbling sound, thus proving they were in the room. If Gundam tried to hide, and if those two went to his room to check on him, he would have been found out. That would have been the worst possible outcome. That's why he couldn't just stay hidden. Are you saying it was just a coincidence? Isn't that timing a little too perfect? If that's the case, they obviously know about the secret passage too, right? And, without such a risky plan, they wouldn't have been able to lure him at all. It's even more difficult if it's a one-on-one situation. Now that you mention it, after Ibuki was killed in the music venue, one of Gundam's hamsters retrieved the piece of wallpaper from the baton lighting, right? Hey, with your friends and their exceptionally smart brains, it must have been possible to secretly get one of them behind Mechamaru and press the button on the back of his neck. What were they trying to find out by torturing him? We don't need to play a game. It's clear the duct tape was on his mouth before the torture even began. You were with us when I peeled the duct tape off Nagito's mouth, right? The blood on Nagito's face wasn't under the duct tape, remember? And the duct tape had a lot of crinkles around his mouth. He must have been struggling to open his mouth under the duct tape. Some kind of setup? Some way? In place of those tiles, the killer used the Monokuma panels. So when we opened the warehouse door, the first panel toppled into the second. And from there, they fell like dominoes until they reached the lighter at the end. And one more thing. There was something else the killer did to hide the domino effect, right? But those sounds weren't the only strange thing, right? Looking back on it, it was also strange when we opened the door to the warehouse. Yeah, and that's how the warehouse caught on fire. At least, that's how it looks. At the time, Akane mentioned that she could barely open the door. But the blocked doorway, there wasn't enough space for a person to fit through, right? It's a major problem. I mean, that door was the only entrance to the warehouse. You don't have to think so hard. there's actually only one person who could have possibly done this. He wasn't just the victim. Maybe. He was the victim. And he was the perpetrator too. Maybe. But Nagito might do something like that, don't you think? Yeah, you're right. It seems we need to discuss how Nagito was able to tie himself up. Then Nagito's right arm wasn't tied up, right? He was able to move it freely, right? Maybe he propped the knife somehow? And slammed his right hand down on it?
I agree with that.
Makes sense. That's why there was a big hole in the plushie's stomach. He inserted the knife handle into that hole to prop it up. Then he slammed his hand onto it. If that's it, he had to place the plushie near him, and it also explains the mysterious blood on the plushie. After stabbing his hand, he no longer needed the plushie, so he cast it off toward the fire's origin point. Like she said, in that condition, it's very difficult to stab yourself with a spear. It'd be hard to use a spear with a knife stab into your right hand, while your left hand is tied up. But no matter what I think, I can't believe Nagito's death was caused by someone else. As Kazuichi said, it's true we've been constantly betrayed. But even if I'm betrayed again, I still want to believe in everyone. No matter how many times I may be betrayed, I still want to believe in everyone. Do you really think so? I did say difficult, but I never said impossible. I feel that there's some way he could have stabbed himself with that spear. I don't know. It's impossible to figure out by myself. So let's think about it together. That's how we made it this far up till now. How did Nagito stab himself with a spear? Let's work together and think this through. That settles the description of that bloodstain, but it's not the only unnatural bloodstain. Look, there's blood on the back of his hand, around the middle joints of his fingers. We might need to think and use our imaginations for a bit. If there's blood on his palm and the back of his hand, what was his left hand doing as the blood splattered? Now that you mention it, compared to the rest of his body, the wounds on his left arm are pretty mild. He probably made his wounds mild on purpose, so he could keep his strength while he gripped the spear. Oh, I got it! Maybe, yeah, like I thought. It's no mistake that Nagito was gripping the spear, I think. However, what's important is what section of the spear he was gripping. Isn't the size of that cut-off section about the same size as a human fist? At a time like this, how about we stick to the plan to think one step at a time instead of expecting the answers all at once? Let's focus on the spear first. Namely, where it was and how it was positioned just before it impaled Nagito. That'd be awesome, but he probably used the ceiling girder directly above him. I noticed a slight red streak on the ceiling girder. It probably got smeared there during the setup. He probably chose that spear so he could commit suicide like that. If someone else did this, there's no reason they'd go to all this trouble just to kill someone with a spear. He probably covered his own mouth so we wouldn't hear him screaming in pain. The mystery isn't just about who the traitor is. No matter how you look at it, Nagito's death is a suicide. But I'm a little worried, you know? I'm worried about starting the voting time while there's still a mystery. There's just one thing that doesn't make sense, and it relates to Nagito's death. Plus, it's something even Nagito couldn't influence. He couldn't even tamper with the evidence for it. Yeah, That's it. Isn't that weird? Until now, the files always specified the cause of death, but even during Gundam's case, and before during Mikan's case, the thing he purposely omitted from the Monokuma file was always the most important mystery in the case. What should we do, you guys? Should we proceed with the vote? I think we should keep going until everyone is satisfied, even if it's just to be safe. We've come this far. Let's work hard till the very end. If we work together, everything should be alright. That's what I believe. Why don't we try removing all our preconceived notions before we discuss this? In the beginning, our discussion advanced by assuming Nagito's death was caused by the spear. It's better to confirm if there are any other possibilities. That's what I think. I feel like it's possible that we overlooked something. There's no way he burned to death. Additionally, that's a poison made specifically for killing. I see. Now that you mention it, there's no way a toxin like that doesn't relate to the case at all. But, even if blood blotches appear, if the body was already covered in blood, there's no way we'd notice them easily, right? That's also a possibility. If there's no way he could have drank the poison, it might be impossible. Just kidding. It's not like we're out of possibilities yet. Since we've already ruled out so many possibilities, it might be easier to think about what really killed him. Operation Elimination Method. The hint should be written on the poison's warning label. Maybe. Well, this was also written on the poison's warning label. Also, the poison is apparently denser than air, so it probably didn't affect us because we were standing. If it meets the requirements that well, maybe it's not just a possibility anymore. There might have been an accomplice. If Nagito committed suicide by inhaling poison that he brought, then why wasn't there anything that looked like poison at the crime scene? If Nagito brought poison to the warehouse, it's strange that we couldn't find it there. Yeah, if Nagito brought it, it's strange we couldn't find that container anywhere, right? It's probably plastic or glass, right? There's no way it'd completely incinerate. Even the plastic fragments of the fire grenades we used to put out the fire didn't completely burn up, you know? Huh? Hajime. Could it be? Sonya's words are proof that the poison was swapped with the contents of a fire grenade. There's more. That's not the only thing we found in Nagito's room. He also found a gas mask and gloves under his bed, too. I admit that there wasn't an accomplice. That was just my misunderstanding. In actuality, the truth is even more horrifying. No, it's not! I'm sorry, but I just realized it. We know Nagito used the grenade canister to store the poison. So when was it deployed in the warehouse? When did Nagito breathe in the poison? When I thought along those lines, that's when I realized it. It probably happened at the same time. Yeah, I think so. When we all threw the grenades to put out the fire in the warehouse, the poison was deployed, and it converted to poison gas and killed Nagito. It would mean he didn't kill himself. You mean, who's the actual killer, right? Who prepared the poison fire grenade that killed Nagito? Then who set the warehouse fire that caused one of us to throw the poisoned grenade? The next question will be my last. Considering all the facts up till now, why did Nagito set the warehouse on fire? It was a trap. Preparing the poison, creating a reason for us to throw the poison. It was all a setup by Nagito. It was all a trap to make one of us throw the poison grenade. I don't know. The person who threw it probably didn't know either. To do that, he set a trap to force someone to kill him. The poison grenade and the fire were traps. That's why the curtain was the fire's origin point. All the fire grenades we threw at the curtain shattered once they fell to the floor. Because of that, Nagito, who was laying face up on the floor, was able to breathe in the dense poison. And then... Even so, the poison is what caused him to let go of the spear. No, it's too early to give up. Even though it's just a hunch, it's possible that it's probably... There's one way, I think. Hey, is it alright if we look at Nagito's crime one more time from the beginning? I want to make sure my hunch is correct. Hajime, please. What Hajime said is probably true. That's part of the reason why I thought it was a little strange. Did Nagito really not care who the killer was? He said this to us earlier. That feeling of belief is at the heart of his trick. He believed we'd notice the fire grenades. He believed we'd try to extinguish the flames. And he believed we'd fall into his trap. By believing in us, Nagito was able to put his life-threatening plan into effect. There's one more thing, remember? Something that Nagito believed in from the bottom of his heart. I want you to try to remember what that is. But, in his case, it was pretty remarkable, wasn't it? It almost seemed like he had blind faith in it. I just thought... It was strange that it doesn't connect to anything. He factored in his belief in us. But for some reason, he didn't factor in his own luck. No, there's no way. I mean, this is Nagito we're talking about. You know, he wasn't just after anybody. He probably had a target. A target he was aiming for all along. A person to set up as the killer. The target's true identity. Even Nagito didn't know it. That's why he relied on being the ultimate lucky student, and incorporated that luck into his plan. As long as he had his luck, he believed the target he was after would pick up the fire grenade. He probably risked his life just so his ultimate luck could decide this. Nagito didn't know who the traitor was until the very end. All he could do was rely on his own luck. That's probably true. By that point, his plan should have already been in motion. And that concludes my argument. Nagito's plan was to make the traitor kill him. What are you gonna do? Are you guys gonna believe me? If, by chance, the traitor revealed themselves during that bomb scare, what would have happened? Would it have stopped Nagito from acting so reckless? But they couldn't help it. Even if they wanted to reveal themselves, they couldn't do it because they weren't created to do that. That's why I want you guys to guess. Yeah, I want you to guess. Who do you think it is, Hajime? Who do you think the future Foundation sent to infiltrate your group as the traitor? A traitor who's not allowed to think that they're different from everyone else. A traitor who can only interact with everyone as a traitor. Because that's the nature of their existence. They can only exist as a traitor. Who do you think is the traitor? Hajime, please. Ah, you totally guessed right. Just as expected. Yep, you're correct. I'm the traitor. The agent sent by the Future Foundation to hide among you all is me. I'm sorry. It's the truth. No, I have nothing more to say, because we already know the killer's true identity. So the only thing left to do is vote. It's definitely strange, right? Or rather, why was I able to do that? Maybe I wanted to protect everyone, no matter the cost. Hey Hajime, can you do me a small favor? I want you to prove to them that I'm the traitor. I want to explain everything to you guys, but as I expected, that's rather difficult. That's why the only thing I can do is plead with you. I want you to do it. I believe you can prove it. I'm very sorry, but this is the only way. So please, Nanami? Hajime, you're going to listen to my request, right? Since I've been found out, I'll just confess. The reason I couldn't tell anyone I knew the bomb was a fake was because if I had said that, I would have had to explain how I heard about it from Nanami. Hey, can you listen to me a little? There's nothing to be sad about, you know? 'Cause this is different from what happened before. Unlike before, you guys don't have to stay alive by doubting someone. You guys can stay alive by believing in me. I'm sorry. Nanami, I'm sorry too. You're probably gonna get scolded by a lot of different people for this. But still, I want to protect everyone by any means. And I'm happy that I'm able to do that. I know. It's voting time, right? You don't have to worry. Believe in me, and cast your vote. An eternal game utopia sounds like fun! That's not it. You guys aren't part of the game, right? I'm just a part of the game, but you guys aren't, right? I don't know. No, I won't. Even if I cease to exist, even if you guys never remember me again, that doesn't mean I will completely disappear. As long as everyone continues to move forward toward the future we created together, I will never disappear. What I lived for, fought for, and risked my life for will still exist. You're probably just scared, right? Not just of disappearing. You're scared of moving toward the future with such a heavy burden, right? How much longer are you going to be this indecisive? Didn't you want to become someone with confidence? Isn't that why you admired Hope's Peak Academy? Hajime, you've had it wrong this whole time. Having talent isn't the goal. There's something much more important than whether or not you have talent, right? What's important is that you believe in yourself. If you can't do that, no matter how much talent you possess, you will never be confident in yourself. Just like how you were in the past. But past Hajime is in the past. He's not the same Hajime who spent time with me and the others in this world. So it's going to be all right. I think it's time you finally had confidence in yourself. You guys are the only ones who have the right to decide your future. And the responsibility too. But if you can't choose either future, why don't you just create one? Even if this world is just a game, you guys aren't part of the game. You guys don't have to just choose a future. You should be able to create one as well. Since you're not part of the game, you don't have to worry about talent, skill, or level. You guys have a tremendous ultimate move that can overcome anything. I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you just do it, things will turn out okay. Of course, games aren't very fun when they're easy to clear. Hey, Hajime, this isn't for the sake of anyone else. You have to do this for yourself. Now then, it's about time you show me your cool side, Hajime. Come on, I'll help out too. See, if you just do it, things will turn out okay. You should even be able to create the future. No matter what kind of future it is, as long as you guys move toward it, I will never disappear. Everything that happened here, it won't be meaningless. If you guys carried the burden of both hope and despair, you should even be able to create the future. Even if it's a convenient miracle, if you just do it, things will turn out okay. That's why you can't hesitate now. Resolve to throw everything away and give it everything you got. I'll be cheering for you too. No, that's wrong! Me too. Thank you. I'll never forget about you guys. I'll never, ever forget. I'll be cheering for you guys from now on. From somewhere. 'Cause we're all friends after all. Yeah. Everyone in this whole peaceful world watches this show. We created this ultimate real fiction so Danganronpa could fulfill that need. Every person in the outside world watching this is a huge Danganronpa fan. Everyone loves the killing games. This killing game is for everyone. So it's everyone's killing school semester. Your talents are a bunch of lies. I mean, they suited you to a certain extent, but mostly in a placebo effect sort of way. Kinda like a form of auto-suggestion. You know, like if you do it, it'll all work out. Then, per the rules, the killing school semester will continue until only 2 students remain. Then this killing game will end, of course. I think everyone will feel a lot better after they vote for Kibo.
I agree with that! No, that's wrong! I agree with that! No, that's wrong!